Welcome to the Making Health Doable podcast. I'm Cheryl Borchardt.
And I'm Sarah Shaw.
And together we're your hosts on this journey as you learn what it takes to live well.
We are dedicated to tackling topics that empower you to make massive progress in your health and wellness journey by using our pillars of health: eat well, move well, live well, and respond well.
At Doable Health, our mission is simple: to help everyone live well. As a team of physicians, board-certified health coaches, and law enforcement experts, we're here to serve employees and first responders with coaching, workshops, and masterclasses designed to conquer stress, anxiety, and burnout.
But our dedication doesn't stop there. We're also committed to improving wellness for individuals like you by offering at-home lab testing and personalized coaching to support your unique needs.
Because whether you're an employee, a first responder, or simply an individual seeking better health, we believe that life can feel better for everyone when health is made doable.
So join us as we embark on this journey together, where we'll provide you with the tools, insights, and encouragement you need to thrive.
And stay tuned for enlightening discussions, expert interviews, and actionable advice that will inspire you to take charge of your well-being and live your best life.
Until next time, remember, life can feel better when health is made doable.
Before we begin, we have an exciting new offering from Doable Health: at-home lab testing with our integrative health practitioner, Janine Finelli.
I'm Janine Finelli, integrative health practitioner, National Board Certified Health and Wellness Coach, and VP at Doable Health. We offer at-home functional lab testing for individuals to test and not guess when it comes to their health. Whether you are interested in a deep dive under the hood because you love to geek out on numbers and want to really focus on moving forward with prevention, or you have symptoms, brain fog, digestive issues, hormonal imbalances, insomnia, low or no libido, water retention, headaches, all sorts of things that you just cannot figure out where they're coming from, through our at-home functional medicine lab testing with the best of the best labs out there, we can help give you answers. Schedule your initial consult with me so you can test and not guess by going online at doable.com/test. And for a limited time, get 10% off your initial consultation by using the code PODCAST in the checkout screen. doable.com/test.
Welcome, everybody. Today, we are going to be talking about burnout and specifically addressing burnout in our lives. And I have Ashley Quamme today. She's our guest, and Ashley's the founder of Beyond the Plan, a consulting practice that partners with firms to help advisors understand how their clients think, feel, and do money. As a therapist and financial behavioral specialist, Ashley partners with advisory firms as their financial behavior officer, providing client consultation, advisor coaching and training, facilitation and co-facilitation of client meetings, and onboarding assessments. Apart from helping firms to differentiate their services, Ashley's main priority is helping firms improve their clients' overall well-being. Ashley is a keynote speaker and presenter for financial professionals. And prior to working in this advisory space, she served as a couples therapist for 10 years. And her practice, The Wealthy Marriage, currently provides therapy and financial therapy and coaching for couples and individuals globally. So, Ashley, thank you for being here today.
Thanks for having me, Cheryl.
Yes. And so we're going to talk about addressing burnout today. And so I'm going to start with our audience just defining burnout. So this is from Psychology Today. Burnout is a state of emotional, mental, and often physical exhaustion, and it's brought on by prolonged or repeated stress. And most often, burnout can be caused by problems at work. It can appear in other areas of life, such as parenting, caretaking, in our romantic and personal relationships. So with the definition, and as we talk about this today, Ashley, What are some of the common signs of burnout that our listeners can look for in their lives?
Yeah, burnout is, I would say, prominent and it doesn't really discriminate
Mhm.
against, anyone, and it can show up for anyone. Oftentimes, I find that clients or individuals think that they might be immune to it, or because they're not laid up in the bed and can't get out and depressed, that then they're not experiencing burnout. And I get that that might sound a bit dramatic, but I think it's also important to help listeners just be aware that, none of us are really immune to it and it can affect and impact all of us. So some of the signs really to be on the lookout for would be a similar kind of to maybe what you might see with depression, maybe a loss of interest in
Mhm.
certain, from a professional workplace, like certain aspects, maybe of your job, not completing things in a timely manner or on a timeline, turning things in late or showing up late. For those who may be in the service industry, it could
Mhm.
be things like looking at your calendar and rolling your eyes or sighing because you see that one meeting or that meeting with that one person or that one task or project. And it's really don't want to do this. And not only does that happen one day, but then that starts to happen day after day after
Mhm.
day.
That dread that we yeah.
Yeah. That
Like, "Oh,
feeling
I dread this."
stomach. Yeah. And I think dread, Cheryl, is really a good word here to use because something that most of us really can connect to. And again, just to highlight, it's not just a one time dread thing,
Mm.
but this is a dread that really starts to seep in and like spill over. And we start to notice that, oh, there's a lot of things about this work that I'm dreading. I don't
Mhm.
find the same fulfillment or enjoyment that I once did.
Mm.
The other thing to pay attention to when it comes to burnout is also, apathy or not really caring as much,
Mhm.
whether it's about outcome, whether it's about the level of work that we do. So I don't really care if I do a good job, or I don't care if I get a bad review on
Mhm.
this, or I don't care if I lose a client or get that slap on the wrist or turn this in on time. There's a development of some sort of lack of care or apathy. And I know I'm talking more specific to the workplace, but this can also show up, as you mentioned, in other parts of our lives, maybe in our interpersonal relationship, maybe with regards to, parenting or
Oh,
even
well, yes.
our own health too. And so burnout can sometimes start in one area and we can start, if left unchecked, it can then start to spill over into maybe other areas as well.
I like how you explain that, and it goes to show us that every day, every week, every month, we need to maybe do a check for ourselves and see if this is starting to develop. And for somebody who might already be going through all of this, it gives them an opportunity to also reflect and say, okay, so is this how I want my life to look? Right. Like, and I know sometimes at work, we may not be able to control certain things that we have to do, maybe day in, day out. But I think it just gives an opportunity to have that evaluation for ourselves. Okay. So let's just say maybe somebody's living a life and they just feel they're burnout. Maybe they're burnout in all areas. Maybe it's just work. Maybe it's parenting. I don't know. So, what would be some of the long term implications of letting that go unchecked, no matter where it's showing up?
Yeah, there's implications and from multiple areas. Certainly there are mental health implications. There are, mental health, psychological implications. There's relationship implications and even physical health or more broadly health implications. So left unchecked, if it goes on for a long time, again, it can really start to take a toll on one or all of those areas. Some of what we see, at least in the clinical space, might be the development of depression or at
Hmm.
least on the mental health side. So clients developing more depressive symptoms. it can lead to prolonged loss of motivation for, taking care of ourselves or working towards goals or things that were important to us. And certainly from a relationship standpoint, it can create a lack of connectedness with the people that we love, whether it's our partners, whether it is our kids, our children, other family members, and or friends. It might mean that you stop going to like a lot of social gatherings, right? And
Mhm.
your friends start noticing. So, it can really kind of draw you in and away from a lot of the things and people that you care about if it goes on for a long time. I used to think that, and I don't mind sharing this, I've shared it publicly before, but I used to think that very arrogantly and naively that I was immune to burnout because I didn't home talking about work. Like it didn't bother me. And I thought that I was immune to it. Again, very arrogant and naive, I know now. But I started to really notice that level of compassion that I had, the care that I had, the empathy was really kind of waning and wavering. And, I know that for at least those in the service based industry, whether it's mental health, whether it's healthcare of some sort, whether it is even our police force, military force, like they can really develop a level of compassion fatigue. And so
Mhm.
just symptoms for folks that really serve in those industries, that can be a big indicator. And so, from a long-term standpoint, right, that lack of really compassion for others can then start to really be a lack of compassion for ourselves. And
Mm.
not only on a mental health side is that impactful, but also from a self-esteem place as well.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah. And I would assume too, just the stressor, the way this stresses us out, because it creates a stress in us that we could even have some of the same types of health issues related to it that we would see with stress response too. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. It's helpful to see that even, I mean, truly anybody can experience this and just to hear your story surrounding that. I think that awareness and mindfulness is really what, educating ourselves on what those things look like. What are some tips you would share with our audience that maybe they've seen this happen? Maybe I'm thinking right off the bat, like at work, if somebody has this, now I would probably go talk to my boss, or I would go, if like I was being handed these things, I would just try to go have a conversation. Maybe not everybody's comfortable doing that, but maybe share some tips, whether it's in the workplace setting or just in general life with
Yeah.
somebody who's experiencing this.
I think the first thing is awareness. So if you're aware of the fact that you have and are struggling or starting to, teeter into the waters of
Mhm.
burnout, I think that having just that awareness is kind of like is really like step
One.
one. So,
Mhm.
then, okay, if I'm starting to struggle with this thing called burnout, what is it about, let's just say the workplace? What is it about this that is maybe leading or contributing to that? And so I think that going and having a conversation with your boss or manager like is important, but they're going to want to know like, well, what do you need? And
Mhm.
what do you want me to do? And, you know, if you don't have any kind of like actionable, like
Mhm.
feedback on
Yeah.
what you need to friend, then the conversation is really potentially maybe going to be pointless. And so I think first, like figuring out what is really contributing to it. Is it the number of hours that you're working? Is
Mhm.
it the intensity of the work? Or maybe it's monotonous. Maybe you're
Mhm.
not being challenged enough from a mental standpoint. There's a lot of research like that shows like having purpose in terms of being able to contribute meaningfully
Yes.
in our work is really important. And so maybe some of the burnout is really due to some boredom or not feeling fulfilled in that space. So trying to nail down and kind of figure out what is really contributing to it. I hear people say a lot like, well, I just work too much. Well,
Mm.
that might be the case, but let's examine that a little bit more closely and try to sift through what is it about working too much? Is it the hours per day? Is it you don't have enough breaks during the day? What aspects of that are within your control and what aspects are not within your control? So if, for example, there are aspects within your workday that are within your control, such as getting or taking more breaks, or maybe you set up your own meetings, or maybe you set even your own work hours. Before
Mhm.
we've been going to the higher ups, like trying to work out kind of a game plan that things that are within your controls first with a few things and seeing what kind of impact. Ultimately, I find that while there's a behavioral component to burnout, there's also a mental mindset component as well.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, you can make a lot of behavioral changes like taking more breaks, going on more walks, getting out in the sun. You can do all of those things, and not that they're not beneficial, not that they won't be helpful. But if you don't attune to the mindset aspect piece in terms of the way you think about your work, the way you think about yourself, your relationships, the burnout is still going to be there. It's like putting the band-aid on
Mm.
aqua.
And we're not about Band-Aids. You and I have talked about this a lot. Like peeling back those layers, getting underneath, and even maybe writing down, listing, trying to hone in on what specific things. And yeah, the mindset's so big. And I
Yeah.
think too, one of the things I've heard and talked with people about is how and why they got into what they do. So, like, even connecting back to some of that can be very helpful.
That
Go ahead.
purpose, identity, right?
Yeah,
That
sure.
that drives us. And you and I have talked about this before. I know it's been a while, but also what are the limiting beliefs that you may have that
Mhm.
are really holding you back from taking action, from taking care of yourself in the way that maybe needs to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Because a lot of times up here, we may know what we need to change, but are we willing to make that shift? Are we willing to actually do it?
Correct.
I've had conversations recently with folks who don't take their vacation. And I'm like, wow, like that, you need to sit with that and think about that is so important. Like, don't give that away. That is time that you can get back for yourself or your family. So, no, I love that so much. Those are great tips. So, do you have resources that you would recommend for people to use? Maybe it's books, maybe it's workbooks, maybe it's podcasts, maybe, do you have some places that you could point people to do some of that mindset work or try to alleviate this a little bit?
I have a colleague and friend. Her name is Lindsay Troxel, and she is the founder and she's a coach, a mindset coach. And her business is called Our Coaching Initiative. And so she works a lot with individuals just around mindset and lifestyle and working hard to really create an intentional life, one that centers around, and she doesn't use the word holistic, but there is like a
Mhm. Yeah.
holistic element there
Yeah.
to it. So she's a wonderful resource in her website. I'm happy to share. But Our Coaching Initiative is her business and practice. I think that any kind of mindset work is important. The thing that I would encourage listeners to make sure of is that if you're going to embark on any kind of mindset work, coaching, therapy, just make sure that the provider you're working with is credentialed, meaning
Mhm.
that they're not just some Instagram influencer who says they've
Mhm.
changed mindset.
Right.
So my kind of black box disclaimer is make sure that the folks, if you choose to do that kind of one-on-one work, make sure that the person is credentialed and has, professional certifications to be able to do that because it's very popular and trendy this piece right now.
Yeah, it is. And anybody can call themselves anything.
Correct.
So, yeah,
Yes.
definitely do your homework on that.
Yeah. And then, apart from that, really from a burnout place, I don't have any specific like podcasts or reading just like on burnout. But what I do encourage clients to do is when they are in that place is let's examine and list out what are things that you found fulfilling or topic areas that you found fulfilling before or at one point in time. And let's seek out maybe resources there and try to draw in like a little bit of motivation. So going back to those places that previously made us feel good. If the burnout you recognize within yourself is to the point that you need some kind of one-on-one help, then looking at maybe working with an individual therapist, or again, going back to a mindset coach, but a therapist, a mental health therapist can also do wonders for exploring some of that, understanding where it came from, how did you get here, and then what types of actionable items need to be put in place so that you can, feel good about the work you do and who you are.
Mm. And sometimes I've heard people say it can feel like they're in a hole of some sort and they don't really know how to climb out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so it's like just being able to know how to get out of that and not, if you're really struggling to not continue like that, that's, I think, where a lot of people, they just, that goes on for years and years. And that's what we want to try to prevent here.
Yeah.
So
there's a lot come up. And the last thing I'll say is people feel constrained or in that box, like you said. And some of it is the financial aspect of it. And it's, actually, I can't stop working or I can't stop doing this to pursue this, other business that would bring me a lot of joy because I'm the breadwinner and I have to put food on the table. Like, just can't do that. And so, I recognize that's a difficult place to be. And so if that is a place where maybe the job or the work environment that you're doing, maybe it's not working for you right now and it's creating some burnout, all the more reason to reach out and work with a therapist around how to navigate that if the financial resources are the big constraint for maybe why you can't make major adjustments.
I know that's a big burden to carry too, and to feel that weight and just having a way to have somebody to help you move forward. As coaches and at Doable, we do have these conversations a lot, but we also love to refer because we know that we aren't qualified to help in all these ways sometimes, but that could be just a beginning conversation is, one of the things we do is learn more about the person and who they are. And then we can recognize this may need some, therapy attention. Yeah. And in relationships, so I wanted to ask that specifically. That was something that came up to me and just the family life. Will you address that a little bit? Will you talk about like what burnout in the family might look like? Just that's a little bit of a spin on what we're talking about. Maybe even more focused on being an employee or something. But what are some of the things you hear and see?
Yeah. So I see, at least by the time it reaches or would reach my office, there would be a lack of just connection or mental, emotional, or even sometimes physical involvement. And so sometimes people, I would hear, well, I go to work and I come home every night and I help with the kids, but they're not really engaged like mentally, emotionally in the family aspect or in the marriage.
Yeah.
It's kind of like going through the motions. So just because you're going through the motions and can physically show up or physically do the things doesn't mean you're not experiencing some kind of burnout. And so, what I would see a lot are parents that would come in typically within the first 3 years of having the child. And there's research out there from the Gottman Institute, Dr. John Gottman, that talks about the first 3 years. There's a decline in marital satisfaction. And if anyone has had kids, they understand exactly what I'm talking about.
Oh, yes.
Because the first 3 years are intense and they're
so intense,
exhausting and they're mentally exhausting and taxing. And so, that's when it's really common to experience a lot of relational burnout there. And some people actually look to work as the reprieve. They'll say, I look forward to going to work because it's a break from the intensity of what's going on at home. And while that's understandable, it's also one of those signs to pay attention to, or as we don't want to let that go on for too long because again, left unchecked, it can create further divide and disconnection in the marriage or in your relationship with your kid. So,
Mhm.
if you have that feeling of like, I'm just going through the motions, I'm just here and I'm in survival mode, those are statements that are important to pay attention to. And again, potentially reach out, maybe to work with a therapist on not that they can solve sometimes the chaos that comes with raising kids
It's
necessarily.
hard work.
Hard. You're a little bit further in the season than than that.
Yeah.
But I do think that while others aspects of it that can't be changed, that doesn't mean that you just have to keep doing the same thing. And so working with
Mhm.
a therapist, specifically around family stuff, just around strategies that you can utilize, implement for yourself, but also in your interactions to ensure longevity and health of all the relationships within the family unit.
Mhm. Yeah, none of us goes into marriage and parenting as this is something that's gonna fail, or we're gonna be screaming parents that are burnt out and stressed out and, not experiencing any joy. So I think to preserve those things, it is important. And the Gottmans are a great resource, I think, for people who may wanna dive in and look at that. I know some of my clients have done marriage retreats and fun things like that. So it might not just be vacation or self-care and taking care of yourselves. It can be things where you come together as a couple. There are even things that parents and children can do. So there's so many resources out there, so many ways that we can enrich our lives and hopefully live them to the very best of our abilities. So I love this so much. I appreciate your wisdom and you sharing just some professional insights here and some personal insights. And our listeners can find Ashley at www.beyondthefp.com. If you would like to learn more about Ashley and the work that she's doing, and I'm looking forward to the future and having her back to talk about some financial wellness. So I appreciate you, Ashley. Any final things you want to share?
I think the only thing I would end on, at least, or share is don't wait for things to get too bad. It's okay to also be a proactive, preventative approach as well. So reach out for help sooner rather than.
Yes, always the way that we want people to view this. And that's one of our goals is to hopefully prevent issues. But yeah, realistically, some of you out there are going through this heavily. And so we hope this will be a great resource for you. Well, as we wrap up, I have a question for you. Just a little something I like for listeners to get to know our guests. What is one of your favorite vacations that you've ever taken?
Ooh, I think my favorite place that I've ever been to is Cambodia. We went to see Angkor Wat and the temples there. So think Tomb Raider, the movie Tomb Raider with Angelina Jolie. So that was probably my favorite. That was pre-kids and that was very
Mhm.
adventure filled and exploratory from all the things. More recently, since having kids, our favorite place is Amelia Island in Florida. And
Okay.
that's just a little retreat there that's cozy and homey and just all the fun things that you would want in a small beach community.
Mhm. Oh, well, thank you. Cambodia, that's exciting. A lot of places. I have never thought about that. So thank you. I interested in learning more. Thank you, Ashley, and we appreciate your time.
Thanks, Cheryl.
As we wrap up another insightful episode of Making Health Doable, we want to express our gratitude to you for joining us on this journey toward better health and wellness.
At Doable Health, we're not just a podcast. We're a dedicated team of physicians, board-certified health coaches, and law enforcement experts.
And together, we're on a mission to serve employees and first responders, providing coaching workshops and masterclasses tailored to conquer the challenges of stress, anxiety, and burnout.
But our commitment doesn't stop there. We're also passionate about improving wellness for individuals like you, offering at-home lab testing and personalized coaching to support your unique needs.
Because at the end of the day, whether you're an employee, a first responder, or simply an individual striving for better health, we're all human. And we firmly believe that life can feel better for everyone when health is made doable.
So as you go about your day, remember that you're not alone on your journey toward wellness. We're here to support you, encourage you, and provide you with the tools you need to thrive.
So stay tuned for more inspiring conversations, expert insights, and actionable advice in our future episodes. Be sure to like and subscribe on your podcast platform.
And don't forget to visit our website at doable.com, DOOABLE.com, for additional resources and updates. Until next time, remember that health is within reach.
And together we can make it doable.